Today is Thursday, September 2nd, 2021. My name is Judy Herrera, and I'm in Camarillo, California. It is my honor and pleasure to interview Harvey Krasner on behalf of the Conejo Valley Chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution, and Colonial Dames 17th Century for the Veterans History Project with the Library of Congress. This interview is being recorded by Ed Lynch from Advanta Videography and contains the reflections and memories of the veteran during his time in the Army. This is Harvey's story. Harvey, you were born on Columbus Day in 1924 to David and Lena Krasner in New York City. Sadly, you lost your father at age 8. When you were 11, your mother bravely decided to move you and your sister Rita across the country to Los Angeles, California. You enjoyed volleyball at the beach in Santa Monica and graduated from Los Angeles High School in 1942. Do you want to pick up your story there?
Surely, yes, I will. I'll pick it up. In 1942, I graduated in June of 1942, and I turned 18 a couple of months later in October. And of course, the war was on now in pretty full bloom, and most of my graduating class, were 18, a little maybe before I was, were volunteering and getting into the service quickly. So what I did, as soon as I turned 18, I tried to get into the Air Corps. I tried to enlist in the Air Corps, and when I took the test, they turned me down because of my eye. My vision wasn't up to their standards. So the guy who gave me the test said, you know, you passed everything else so well, we're going to let you come back in a month and take the vision test again. He said, but I'll tell you what I'll do. I'm going to advise you what will help your eyes. He said, drink a quart of carrot juice a day and do these exercises, you know, with your hands and I'll give you a list of exercises and rest your eyes and come back in a month, I'll give you the test again. So I did. I drank a quart of carrot juice every day. This terrible stuff. And I did all those exercises and rested my eyes and did everything he advised me to do. Went back and took the test. It was the same, 20/30, so I couldn't get in. Then I was drafted a couple of months later, and they gave me the physical test, my vision was 20/20. So I went in the Army. I was drafted in the Army in January of 1943. And I was sent, everybody was going in, everybody, all my friends. Mm. It was just a thing to do. It wasn't a question of whether you were going in or not. It was just a question of when you were going. I was inducted in Fort MacArthur, California, and then sent me to Fort Custer, Michigan for basic training.
Okay.
And after basic training was 3 months, and when I came back from my one week furlough after basic training, I was sent, because I passed the test pretty high, they sent me to Philadelphia into a program called ASTP. ASTP stands for Army Specialized Training Program. And if you passed the test, your written test after basic training, and you're in your early 20s, and you pass high, they sent you to Officer Candidate School. If you were only 18, they sent you to ASTP. Well, that's where I went to the University of Pennsylvania. I took classes in the morning, and in the afternoons, we pulled guard duty at the port there in Philadelphia, where they were loading ships with munitions, armaments, and so that's what we did. Guard duty, went to classes and did guard duty, and after a few months of this ASTP, they disbanded that program. I forget the exact time. It was in 1943,
Okay.
the middle of 1943, and they sent me to Camp House, Texas, for advanced infantry training. I was there for 3 months at Camp House, Texas. That was in North Texas. And when I finished that, I went to Fort Meade, Maryland, where I was got on a Liberty ship and went overseas. And this was early 1944.
Okay, so when you were getting moved back and forth across the country, how were you being transported? How did you get from Michigan to Philadelphia?
Always by train.
Troop trains?
Troop train. Always, I was sent by troop trains. Yeah. I was a replacement. I was called a replacement, sent to for the 3rd Infantry Division, which was an elite infantry division. That's the Audie Murphy division, and it was a regular Army division. Regular Army. There wasn't a National Guard division. It was a regular Army division. And every infantry division had a tank battalion attached to it for support. Every infantry had a tank battalion. So I was a replacement in the infantry, and before they assigned me to a regiment in the infantry division, somebody came by and said, the tank battalion that's attached to this division that needs replacements, are there any volunteers who would like to be in that tank battalion? And we got a training period for you in armored tank warfare. So I raised my hand and I said, I'd like to be in that tank battalion. So I was transferred to the tank battalion and took about a 2 or 3 week heavy training course in what they call armor or tank warfare, tank training. And I was assigned to B Company of the 756 Tank Battalion as a bow gunner and assistant driver in B Company. And that's where I remained for the rest of the war from August of 1944 to the end of the war.
How many men were in that tank with you?
Oh, there were five men.
Okay.
5 men. There was 5 men. There was 3 in a turret up. The tank commander, the loader, and the cannoneer for the big gun.
Okay.
The loader and the cannoneer and the tank commander. And down below there was a driver and the assistant driver. And that's where I was, assistant driver and bow gunner. I manned a 30 caliber machine gun, and the tank commander manned in the turret, manned the 50 caliber machine gun, and our tanks were Sherman tanks. And we were, the big weapon we had was a 75 millimeter gun. And we went up against the German tanks, or the German tanks were armed with the most fabulous artillery weapon in World War II, the 88 millimeter gun, which was incredible. They could knock us out before we were in range. Our little 75 millimeter was a pea shooter compared to their 88. Anyway, we started advancing through France in August, September, October, and December 15th, we were in the northwest of France in December, and all of a sudden, that was in the Ardennes, which was the official name for the Bulge. The Ardennes, the German army attacked in huge strength, attacked us, and that was the Bulge. We were in the Bulge, eventually we were pushed back a few miles, but eventually we prevailed, and the Germans retreated.
It was pretty cold in December. Did you want to pick up with that story?
Yeah. Yeah. It was the coldest winter in that part of Europe in 25 years. It got down to 5 degrees, and it was incredibly cold. So what we did, when night came and it got dark at 5 o'clock, black, we always looked for a farmhouse that we could spend the night in and at least stay a little warm and maybe get some sleep. And if we didn't find a farmhouse, there was, in that part of the Ardennes, the farms had these huge, giant barns, which were open on both ends. And if we didn't find a farmhouse, we looked for one of these huge barns, and we would back our tank in one of the open ends of the farmhouse to spend the night and try and get a little warm. We'd run our engine about every hour to try and warm ourselves, and we'd spend the whole night there because we couldn't do anything. It was so black and dark. We'd spend the night. So one night we backed our tank into, this is a famous story, it's been written up incidentally in quite a few military magazines. We backed our tank in one end of the barn, and we all went to sleep. We always left one man on guard, always. That was protocol. We had to leave one man on guard. Backed our tank in, and we all went to sleep except the man on guard. We were in there for about an hour, and we heard a tank back into the other end of this huge barn. We assumed it was one of our tanks. We all went to sleep, and we took turns waking up and standing, just being on guard duty. And then when dawn started to come, approach, the man on guard woke us all up and said, "You know, I'm looking at the other end of this barn, and that tank doesn't look like a Sherman." So we got up, and the tank commander looked and said, "That's a Mark IV German Tiger tank, Mark a Mark V, I think, Mark V German Tiger. So he woke us all up, and the barn, the roof of the barn is held up by floor-to-ceiling posts on each side of the barn, floor to ceiling. These posts held up the roof of the barn, and this is a very interesting. The German tank became, the soldiers in the German tank became aware of us at the same time. And their 88 gun was about a foot and a half longer than ours, bigger and longer. And we both traversed our turrets at the same time. And their 88 gun hit one of the pillars and couldn't traverse all the way around, but our 75 millimeter gun was about a foot and a half shorter and missed the pillar. And we were able to traverse our turret with our gun, and they couldn't do it. And the back, the armor on the back of any tank is always a little thinner than the sides and front. And we were able to put 3 or 4 shots into it and knock it out. We were very lucky. One of the articles that was written was called "Sometimes It's Smarter to Bring a Smaller Gun." Anyway, we were very lucky on that. And then we went on to quite a few important actions, and one of them was the famous Komar Pocket, which has been written up. The Komar Pocket are the 3rd Division and the 756th Tank Battalion received the Presidential Unit Citation. We received the Presidential Unit Citation for that action. And we also received the highest unit citation. I think it's called the French.
Croix de Guerre.
No, not the Croix de Guerre.
No.
The Fourragère, French Fourragère
Oh.
unit citation. The Croix de Guerre, I think, is an individual citation. Unit citation from the French was a famous battle, and it's been written up in a lot of magazines. Also, we were in the Vosges Mountains, and incidentally, the 3rd Infantry Division, which we were attached to for support, received in World War II, this is most amazing, 40 Congressional Medal of Honors. 40 Congressional Medal of Honors, twice as many as any other infantry division.
So when you were in a tank, did the tank was in front of the infantry, or you were behind the infantry?
We were
How did that work?
mostly together. Many times the infantry would ride into combat on the back of our tank. Incidentally, the 3rd Division was the Audie Murphy. The Audie Murphy, everyone knows who Audie Murphy is, and he rode on the back of our tank quite a few times into action. And everyone knows who Audie Murphy was. Anyway, the division was considered the outstanding infantry division in World War II. We ended up, after the Ardennes, the next combat campaign battle star we got was the Rhineland. We crossed the Rhine, And the next one after that was, of course, Central Europe, which was Germany. We ended up going through southern Germany, in Wurzburg, Augsburg, and we captured Nuremberg, which was the heart of the Nazi program.
Okay.
And then we also got to, after we captured Munich, or went through Munich, after Munich, we were in we went past the Dachau concentration camp 3 days after it was eliminated, and all the inmates were still just dying. It was a terrible, terrible, terrible sight. And one of the most important things, we ended up capturing Berchtesgaden. We were the first troops into Berchtesgaden, which was Hitler's eagle's nest in the German Alps. And then we ended up, the end of the war, May 8th, we ended up in Salzburg, Austria, which is a beautiful town. Salzburg was the home of Mozart's music. That's where he lived, born and raised. And that's where we ended up, May 8th, 1945, in Salzburg, Austria. That's where we stayed as an occupation force.
So could we back up just a bit? I know you earned a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart, so there's a story for both of those.
Well, yeah, I'm not too proud of them, but I'll tell you how I got them.
Please.
The Bronze Star, one day, the first sergeant came by and said, "Anybody here? Any of you guys checked out to drive a Jeep?" So I raised my hand. He said, "Okay, you're volunteering." That's so I said, "Okay," and they loaded about 10 5-gallon jerry cans full of gasoline in the back of the Jeep. They said, "Okay, you drive. I'll tell you where to go." So we went down the drive, and I noticed he was very, very weary, very looking around. But I didn't know. I just drove the Jeep wherever he told me to go. We ended up at one of our tanks when they'd run out of gas, and that was the object of our little trip, is to bring those 50 gallons of gas to that tank so they could get out of where we were. We unloaded the cans and then said goodbye and drove back. Later on, I found out this first sergeant volunteered to do that, and they awarded him the Bronze Star, and they had to give me one too because I volunteered also.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I volunteered unknowingly. Anyway, I got it sort of by accident.
Oh, I don't think so. You were behind enemy lines and
Anyway,
rescue.
yeah, we were behind. It was behind enemy lines. That's one of the reasons it was a dangerous thing to do. And the Purple Heart was also quite accidental. The tank, our tank, one day was hit by a shell, and the tracks were disabled, and we had to bail out. We were trained, if the tank was disabled and couldn't move, we were trained to bail out as quickly as possible. So when bailing out, one of the guys lost his balance and pushed the hatch, my hatch, he fell and pushed it and hit my head. And it cut my head a little bit. And then we bailed out, and then the tank commander said, hey, you gotta go get that taken care of. So they took me to a field hospital. A field hospital is where they take wounded soldiers temporarily to take care of them. And if they're in serious wound, they send them to a general hospital. But the field hospital is just a big tent, a giant tent with about 20 cots on one side, 20 cots on the other, with guys in there temporarily, basically temporarily. But they were all wounded. So I had to stay there overnight. They had stitched up my head, and I was okay, but I had to stay overnight. The next morning, one end of the tent, a colonel comes in with a sergeant who was carrying a big basket, and behind them a clerk with a clipboard. So they walked down the aisle, and the colonel and the sergeant with the big basket was throwing these things on every cot as he walked by. He just threw them on the cot, and the clerk behind came and took everybody name, rank, and serial number. The things that they were thrown on the cots were Purple Hearts. So I got a Purple Heart by accident also.
Wow.
So I got it, but the Purple Heart and the Bronze Star were worth 5 points each, because they had a point system after the war was over. They had a point system, certain things, your time of service, your time in combat, your decorations were all worth certain points. And I got enough points to be discharged pretty quickly. However, the Tank Battalion was deactivated a couple of months after we were in Salzburg, and I was having such a good time in Salzburg. I was 20 years old, and the Fräuleins were so friendly.
Grateful.
Yeah, they were really friendly, very friendly. And we had our own nightclub, and it was terrific. I was having such a great time. I volunteered to stay over for 6 months more. But the battalion was deactivated. So they left, and they sent me to Vienna. So I was in Vienna for 6 months, also having a great time with my pals. Anyway.
Can you talk a little bit about how you kept in touch with the family during this time? Were you able to hear from your mom or your sisters?
Oh yeah. They had the mail system during World War II was fabulous, because mail from home to a soldier was really very important. Shall I tell you a story?
I want that story.
Okay. We used to get mail. Whenever we were in a little quiet area. Sometimes the company clerk would come by and call mail call, and we would gather around and he would give out the mail. And quite a few of the guys were in the Army for, 2, 3 years away from home, and they had sweethearts, girlfriends that sometimes got discouraged or lonesome, and ended their relationship with a letter called, we used to call them the Dear John letter. Anyway, everybody knows what a Dear John letter is. We had one instance I have to tell you about. And the letter was written. This is what the letter said to him: Dear Howard, hope you're okay, and I have to tell you that you've been gone now from our hometown and our relationship now almost 3 years, and I got very lonesome, and I met a man, an executive in a place where I work, and we got into a very relationship with him, and it's very deep, and I have to tell you about it. And I'm returning, under the circumstances, I'm returning your picture. I don't think it's appropriate for me to have your picture, so I'm returning it to you. And I would appreciate it very much if you would return the wallet-sized picture that you have of me. I don't think you should have that anymore. I'm sorry about this, but I think that's the way it is. And the letter is signed, very truly yours, and Mary Smith. Anyway, he reads this letter, and he is so pissed. He's, that bitch, here I am fighting my ass off for her, and she does this to me. So he reads the letter again, and he thinks about it, and then he says, okay. He goes to the guys in his platoon and asks them if he could borrow the picture of their girlfriend or wife, that he would return it within a month, absolutely return it within a month. So he collects them all, and he picks out the best 8 pictures, puts them in the envelope, puts with his picture, with his girlfriend's picture, in that same envelope, and he writes this letter back to her. Dear Mary, I received your letter and I appreciate your concern for my well-being. Thank you very much. I understand how you can get into this relationship because of my absence for so long, and I understand I received my picture back, and I am sending your picture back as you requested. Please pick yours out, as I don't remember which one you are.
That's great.
And he sends this letter back to her, and the guy's got a big kick out of that.
So Harvey, I realize your mother was a widow and you were the only son. How did your mom react to you going away to war?
Well, actually, she was upset about it, but it was just, at that time, everyone, it was just something that was happening. Her friends' sons were going, and everybody was going. Don't forget, we had, I think, 13 million men under arms. 13 million.
Yeah. And she kept in touch. You would hear from her on mail call.
Oh yeah. Well, she would write to me, and my sister would write to me.
And you would have the opportunity to write back.
Oh yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Sure. Mail was very important. Here's a hat we used to wear at reunions, and which I'll tell you after the war what some of my experiences. I wear this on my tell everybody my veterans. Here's a Bronze Star and a Purple Heart right there. Anyway, that's what I wear. After the war, I was in Vienna for 6 months, I got my discharge, and I was shipped back to the United States by boat. And it's interesting, the boat trip over to Europe from when seemed like it was too fast, and the boat trip going home seemed too slow.
Of course.
That's interesting. Anyway, we got back to New York, and then I was flown to Camp Beale near Sacramento, where I got my official discharge. After I was discharged, I was flown home to Los Angeles, and that's where I ended up, in Los Angeles. I was that was 1946. I was not 21 years old. When I was 18, came back when I was 21. And I went back to school on a GI Bill.
Good.
And studied marketing. You want me to continue?
Sure, yes, please.
Studied marketing at UCLA, and then I got a job with a big department store that opened in Los Angeles in 1948. I was accepted on their executive training program, and I ended up as the handbag buyer for that department store, ladies' handbag. I remained in that industry for 50 years.
Good business.
Yeah, I was the buyer for about 8 years, and then from buying from the manufacturers, I got to know the manufacturers pretty well from buying from them. I became a sales rep in the handbag industry, and I did that till I was 80 years old. I did that for 55 years. I ended up, I had 2 daughters.
Yeah.
I had 2 daughters and 4 grandchildren.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And now I'm living in Camarillo, California, and very happy here.
You want to tell us about your post-war veteran services, what you've been...
Oh, yeah. Incidentally, I'm very proud of my military service, but I'm even more proud of what I did for the veterans after the service. When I got out of the Army, after a few years, I joined the Jewish War Veterans of the USA. Incidentally, it's the oldest veterans organization in the United States. The oldest, 1896. The very oldest veterans organization. I joined that, and I became very active in what they call their POPI program. What their POPI program is they offer poppies for donations for money donations for a poppy to help. We help hospitalized and homeless veterans, and we've been doing this I've been doing it for 60 years and personally have raised about approximately $250,000 for homeless and hospitalized veterans. I'm very proud of that. I'm even more proud of that than the military service, because the military, everybody was going in, and if you didn't want to go, you were, it wasn't. This is something that you sort of volunteered to do. You didn't have to do it. The military service, you sort of had to do it. Anyway, I've been doing that for a long time, and I'm very proud of that.
Do you want to share a little bit for the viewers about the Jewish War Veteran Association and why it got started?
The Jewish War Veterans is interesting. People always ask me, why the Jewish War Veterans? Nobody has, no Catholic war veterans, there's no Presbyterian war veterans, there's not. Why Jewish war veterans? I said, well, it was a very important reason. It's called the Jewish War Veterans because there were some anti-Semite groups after the Civil War who spread the rumors that the Jews did not fight in the Civil War, did not participate in the Civil War. That was very, very untrue, because the Jews have participated in every war according to their population ratio, from the French and Indian War, every war, the Civil War veterans got together, both Northern veterans and the Southern veterans got together and formed the Jewish War Veterans in 1896 to show that the Jews fought in the Civil War. And as far as the Jews in World War II, it's interesting to note, as noteworthy, that the Jewish population of the United States was only 2% in 1940. But yet they participated in war. 5% of the military, 5% were Jews, and they were 10% of the officer corps, which is very interesting because the Jews pensioned for education. A lot of the Jews that participated and enlisted and were drafted in World War II were college graduates, and they passed their test, the written test, very high, and were sent to OCS a lot.
Yeah.
So that we were 10% of the officer corps, which is an interesting fact. Incidentally, here's a hat I wear when I sell poppies. This is a hat.
And you have the Jewish War Veteran symbol right there.
Yeah, this is the Jewish War Veterans patch, and these are all the stuff that I call them.
They're your
they're the ribbons.
the ribbons.
Yeah, the
that
ribbons.
represent your.
Okay,
Yeah.
let's put it on since
Yeah.
we're getting some
There you
background.
go. Looking good there.
Okay.
All right, that's looking good.
And then I'm going to want you to think about life lessons that you experience
Oh, you want me to sing that
from
song?
experience.
No, I got something else.
Oh, okay.
I want you to talk about your experience in the tank.
Oh, yeah.
What was it like in the tank?
Well, okay. I felt the reason I volunteered to get into the Tank Battalion was because I felt it was safer inside the tank than marching in the mud with a bunch of guys. So that's why I volunteered to join the Tank Battalion. I always felt pretty safe in a tank because we had the 1.5 inches of armor protecting us, and we became very close because the 5 guys in a tank became very, very like brothers. And so that was my experience in a tank. We were very became very close friends, more than friends. And that was.
Were you with them through the 2 years, 3 years then? Were they the same group of guys?
Oh yeah.
Same with those guys?
Same ones, yeah. The only time when your tank was destroyed, that nobody survived. Anyway, yeah, we survived a couple of little things, but nothing serious. And what I learned in the tank and being in the service of World War II, or what I experienced was the camaraderie and the closeness and the brotherhood that you experience with your fellow combatant soldiers. It was very interesting. It was you became very, very close to them, almost like brothers.
Did I miss how the Army changed you as a person?
Well, I don't know if it changed me. Let's see. I just became more disciplined. I don't know, you know.
Yeah, that's fine. That's
Yeah.
fair. Think about it. Come on.
Let me see.
Yeah. You don't go through all that stuff without being changed.
How did I change? Let me see how I changed. I just became more disciplined and appreciated what I had. The Army made me appreciate the food I had after the Army and the love I had after, you know, and it made you appreciate being alive. That's about mostly what I learned in the Army.
That's good.
Dang.
Yeah.
Well, that's about it.
Well, we thank you for your service and your continued dedication to veterans. It's wonderful.
Well, I enjoy doing it. I really enjoy it, and it keeps me very occupied.
Good. Well, we hope you keep going for a long time.
Okay, thank you very much. Anyway, I was in the great 3rd Division, which we talked about, and we had a marching fight song, which was written. I don't know who the author was, but I'll sing it for you. I wouldn't give a bean to be a fancy pants Marine. I'd rather be a dog face like I am. I wouldn't trade my wool ODs for all the Navy's dungarees, for I'm the fighting pride of Uncle Sam. On all the posters you read, they say the Army builds men. Well, they're bringing me down to bring me over again. I'm just a dog-faced soldier with a rifle on my shoulder, but I eat a kraut for breakfast every day. So pass the ammunition to the fighting 3rd Division and send us to the USA. ex-servicemen, and those are the original 16 guys. And that was 1946. And there's only one left. Me,
Awesome.
out of
Wow.
16.
Yeah. So were they all service guys?
They were all ex-service guys.
Mhm.
Yeah, every one of them. And we were all close friends before the war.
How about these guys here?
Those are some of the same guys, just to let, you know, just at one of our reunions.
Right, right.